Welcome to another Katapult training. What I wanted to talk about today was just some of the approaches I take to be a more productive programmer. It doesn't matter what language you're working in. I'm going to utilize Terraform code because that's what I was doing earlier. So we have basically a simple Terraform AWS instance. Nothing special. I just essentially copy and paste it and brought this in here. And what we want to do is actually output all of the available outputs for the AWS instance. And they call them attributes. So let's scroll down here and grab these attributes. And so what you can see here is it's actually a lot of attributes. So if I wanted to do these, I would have to come in variable ID, copy, paste, go back. What's the next one? ARN. And then I'd have to type out the description and I'd have to highlight. So painful. First world problems. All right, so I'm not going to do all that. It's going to kill your productivity. So the better way to do this is multi-line editing. So let's just copy everything that's in here for an attribute, all these bullet points. And this works really well with lists because typically lists have some sort of format. And the thing you have to do is find the common piece. So in this case, let's say we selected all dashes. Well, that's a little too common because on the left side here, this is the label. This is the description, or the name on the left and the description on the right. So if we were just utilizing the dash, we're actually going to select some things inside of here, and we don't want to do that. So we need to find something a little more common. Now, I like to utilize the actual space around the dash. And now we're only going to get the specific dash that comes directly after the label. So when things are formatted consistently like this, it's very easy to do. Another option is to do the end of line. Every single one of these lines has a carriage return at the end. So we take that carriage return and we utilize that. I'm using the default shortcut keys. So in order to select all instances of a character or whatever I have highlighted, I'm going to use Command-Shift-L and Command-Shift-D for a single instance. So D will just go down the list. Command-Shift-L will select all. So if I'm doing the carriage return approach and I use Command-Shift-L, I'm going to hit the left arrow. And you can see I have all the lines selected here except for the last row. And that's because there isn't a carriage return at the end of this line. So before I do carriage return multi-line editing, I always add a row at the end, and then I'll go ahead and do the multi-select left arrow and then command left arrow to go back to the beginning of the row. So that's always an option. If you can't find something that's unique across all of your rows, that's always an option. So I'm going to take these dashes. I'm going to press enter. Now this basically has the label on this row, and right below it is the description. All right, so we're on the row with the label. This is going to be Terraform code, but don't worry about the code. The syntax doesn't matter. It's about the multi-line editing. So for Terraform, in order to add an output, we need to add the output variable. So in your mind, you have to switch to thinking about editing multiple lines at once. So I'm looking at the first line, but technically I'm making sure it works across all of them as well. I highlight the label and hit my quotation mark key, and it's going to automatically put quotes around the whole thing. Right arrow, put in my bracket. And there's multiple ways you could do this. I tend to want to complete the brackets before I move inside the brackets. So I just did down arrow and then press enter to create that. Press enter again to add just space because I like space. And now I'm going to set this as the description. All right, so now we pretty much have all the outputs done. We have descriptions there. We need a value. So I'm going to say value equals, and it's AWS instance .web. All right, so we now need to get the actual label. So we have up arrow twice, and you can use option to jump by word. That's basically all I'm doing here. So get to the label, however you want to do it. You can just left arrow multiple times or whatever and get there. Highlight the label. There is a catch to using your arrow keys without Option or Command. If you do that, I've now selected ID, but I have not selected ARN. I have not selected all of this. I've only selected 2 characters. So by holding down Option, Shift, and right arrow, I now select the entire word. The difference with this is dashes and those sort of things will cause problems if you're trying to select an entire word that has a dash in it. But I'll show you a trick for that in a moment as well. So I've highlighted the label. Let's go down, right arrow, and Option to get to the end, and there's my value. Just paste it in. So now, even with all of the talking, I spent a few minutes here, and we've completely taken care of every single output that is possible on an AWS instance, and that's 84 lines of code. It's pretty useful. So I wanted to show you how, if you have multiple lines or multiple words and you want to be able to select them and it has a dash in it, which will cause problems, how you can do that. So I'm just going to delete all of this. So let's say we have ID, and then we have first dash name, last dash name, and middle initial. So these are all different lengths. So I can't use Shift, and actually let's put the carriage return. Let's use carriage return to select here. So I can't use Shift to select, right? And if I use Option, it's going to get the first line, but the other lines aren't going to be there. And let's actually make it a little worse. Let's say DOB with underscores, which basically treats it like it is one full word. So if I use Option, it selects everything but stops at the dash. So this is where utilizing not your Option but your Command keys comes in handy. So utilize the Command key, Command Shift, right arrow, and you can select the entire row. So that's important anytime you have a dash or spaces or something that breaks apart the word. Visual Studio Code will stop at that point. Well, that's it. Hopefully this multi-line editing has been useful for you. Please let us know in the comments anything else you would like to see, and happy coding.